and I would like to show you my favourite dahlia. It's many people's favourite. It's special in a number of ways. This is the Cafe Au Lait dahlia. It's a dinner plate variety, decorative, and there's a number of special different features about the Cafe Au Lait. Its subtle colouring, its uniformity, the way that the plant itself behaves, it's rampant, and the number of blooms it can put out is stupendous. But there's a downside. There's a number of downsides to growing Cafe Au Lait dahlias, and we'll talk about those today. They also illustrate one of the general features of dahlias, which is where to make your cut if you are cutting for cut flowers. So it's my favourite dahlia because it's special. It's favoured by brides often for their bridal bouquet. It's sort of in fashion at the moment. The usual reaction for somebody on seeing a Cafe Au Lait dahlia for the first time is, "Oh, that's wonderful. That's absolutely marvellous." And they are quite stunning, aren't they? Stunning and also subtle at the same time. So on the plus side, Cafe Au Lait dahlias are actually quite easy to grow. You just grow them in the normal way. They're a quite small tuber, small in physical size, and you just get them started in the normal way, either in a pot to get them started early in the season, or else if you're in a temperate area, you can leave the tuber in the ground. As long as it doesn't freeze deeply, then it will survive nicely. So on the good side, it's a rampant dahlia. It's easy to grow. It gives you spectacular blooms, as you can see, and they're just nice to be part of if you've got the space. So there are two disadvantages I can think of in the Cafe Au Lait dahlia. One is that the blooms take about a week to mature. So here we have a bud which is just beginning to open actually. So from the colour stage, here's one which is just showing colour, and from that stage until you get a fully mature flower takes about a week, sometimes slightly longer. And the downside of that is at any one time it's unusual to have a lot of Cafe Au Laits available. So for instance, for a wedding, a florist may ask for 20 or so Cafe Au Lait dahlias, and because it takes so long to mature, you need an awful lot of Cafe Au Lait dahlia plants in order to ensure that you're going to have 20 blooms which are at the cutting stage. I've got about 12 or so which are cuttable at this precise moment, but that's just by chance. Once I've cut all these, I'll then have to wait for 5, 6, 7 days for some of the other buds to begin to mature, and of course they all go at their own rate, and therefore you can see the difficulty of having enough blooms available to fulfill a task. The second peculiarity about Cafe Au Laits is the colour. This bloom we're looking at now, you can see is a distinct pink colour. There's the favoured cream colour in the middle, but the outer leaves are definitely pink, and you'd look at that flower and say, oh, that's a pink flower. This one as well, you say that's pink. And the favoured colour, and the colour that is inverted commas should be, is Cafe Au Lait, which is cream coloured. And strangely, some of the blooms take on a cream colour, whereas others, even from the same plant, are more pink. Now there's some reasons for that in conditions said to make a difference, and some growers insist that they know how to make their dahlias the Cafe Au Lait colour, the cream colour, but they haven't told me, so I can't help by telling you. We can see here this particular bloom is the Cafe Au Lait colour. It's really cream in colour and there's very little pink there at all. And on the same plant, we've got a much more pink one. So work that one out. It seems to be random. Some flowers are cream colour and some are pink. There's one thing I've noticed, and that is that when they start to bloom in the early stages, there's often an awful lot of pink about them, and as the bloom gets older, it tends to pale up and become more cream colour. So this is an old bloom. It's actually gone past its best, but you can see that the inner part of the bloom is Cafe Au Lait colour, is cream colour, and there's just that little pink hue left on the outside there. So I'll just point out which blooms have gone past, which are ready to cut, and which those which are not yet at the stage when you'd probably cut them. This one has gone past. The petals are pointing backwards. The sepals, which are these green appendages here, are yellowing, and the next stage on is they go brown, and the overall strength of the flower is beginning to reduce, so the petals are beginning to become limp. So that flower has gone past its best. This one here seems to have been around for about as long as the other, but is only just beginning to show signs of being past. So the sepals are just yellowing a little bit, but the petals are still not pointing backwards. So that's at the stage where we could cut that flower, and it would be nice and useful. This one here, the petals are not pointing back nearly as much. The sepals are nice and green and strong, and the petals are strong and flexible, so that flower is ready to cut right now. So the other thing I just wanted to talk about, which I mentioned before, is where to cut your dahlia. Let's say if you're wanting it for cut flowers, then there's a few things. Is stem length important for you, or are you making a tight arrangement, such as a bridal bouquet where the stem length can be very short? So this is a very long stem. This particular flower, it's got a very long stem, and there's a few buds. There's one here which is its sister bud. One has been cut there, but the other one was not. And then there's another stem coming out here, and that's the original. I've taken there's two cuts there from flowers that I've taken, and then lower down, same position. So we can make a cut on this flower anywhere from here, which would allow this shoot here to develop and flower. We can take a cut here, which gives us a good length for if we were making a bouquet, for instance. We've sacrificed that flower in that case, and this bud here will then develop. And then there's no further buds going down the stem right down into where we made the original cut. So the difficulty with taking making a cut up here or even here is that there's an awful long stem below it, and this shoot will develop okay and we'll get a flower on it, but by that time we're really going to be, a very tall plant, and therefore if we want that, fair enough, we can make the cut here or here. But much more likely, much more useful, I think, is to make the cut right down here, so that we can then take whatever stem length we want. We've got choice. But the important thing is that the height of it is being controlled. So we've got our bloom, and we now cut right back so that the plant is in better shape for putting out more shoots which are of a reasonable size, reasonable height. Same with this one here. We can make a decision to cut here, which means that this bud here will be the next to develop, and this one as well. Or we can sacrifice those two and cut down here, and that's probably what I would do, because once these have developed they're going to be too tall. So we'll make the cut here, or even further down here, so that the secondary shoots will then be of a more reasonable size and the plant is, if you like, controlled. So because Cafe Au Lait's shoots grow so rapidly and it becomes so tall so quickly, these are decisions that you'll need to make, where to make your cut to keep the plant bushy and controlled. So that's it for this episode. I've introduced you to my favourite Dahlia, and had a chat about some of the special features of Cafe Au Lait Dahlias. So I hope you enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing you again for the next video. Thanks ever so much. Bye for now.